Recording in progress.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. So, in our previous class, we learned about mouse and keyboard events, how to deal with them. So, in React, you learned about style binding, class binding, and mouse event binding. In event binding, we learned mouse event binding, keyboard events, binding. So we learned about data binding, right? So yesterday we learned about different keyboard events. So generally, whatever events you are learning, these are all JavaScript events. Some changes in the React event arguments and all. Rest of functionality, everything same. So generally, all the events are similar in React. The syntactical parameters concept that little bit change, which already we learned. So whatever you tried in your JavaScript as examples of different events, you can try all of them here. We can design. That means you can recreate every example of your JavaScript into this React. So after understanding these mouse event and keyboard event, so we have a element state events. Element state events actually. We are having element state events. What are the element state events we are having? Element state events, we are having the events like on change is an state event. So what is this is actions when value changes. Actions when value changes. We have like on blur. Action when element lost focus. So on focus. So actions when element gets focus. That is focus. So element state events, these three are the important element state events. On change, on blur, and on focus. And one major thing I already explained. So in React, two-way binding can be achieved only through one event. What is that event? On change. On change. Two-way binding is nothing but accessing the data from the form, storing in a reference. Generally, we can access the data from any data source and display in UI. That is one way. Any change, it should update back. That we do by using on change. Already I explained that point. In two-way binding, the event that you need is on change. Without on change, two-way binding will not work. And blur focus are nothing but when element get focus, loses focus, we can just use these events. So usually element state event is nothing but, for example, user ID is required. If user ID is required, so when I click inside that user ID, I want some message to come. When I click inside to type something, this is called as what? This is called as a focus. And I click outside, then it is called as blur. This is the focus event and this is the blur event. So that means we can set up these. Not only that, you said here verify code, lowercase code only. If accidentally they enter uppercase also, it should convert to lowercase. So we have a user ID. Even they entered lowercase, it should convert to uppercase. That all we can do by using our functions. So that means, for example, on blur, on focus, how we can use. Let's add another component. State event demo. Oh, this is not file. A folder. State event demo. Okay. Now in this, we are adding a state event demo. JSX. So export function state event demo. Now in this, we are returning some markup. So container fluid. Okay. And here we add some state events. Okay. So here we are having data term. So here we have like bank IFSC code. And we given a data definition input type as what? Text. And we have another one. So just like first, this is enough to handle, right? Now we will keep this state event demo. State event demo. In the startup. So we have some bank IFSC code. So if anyone clicks here, so that is focus. On focus, I want to show some message. On blur, I want to hide that message. Tips like you want to display here. Then generally what we do, so I keep a data definition. So in this, we will configure constant. In that is MSG, set MSG message. Use state, it is an empty string. Now what should happen is, so we will write a function, handle focus is the function. We have another function, handle blur is the function. On handle focus, set message. So here I will put a message IFSC code. So some SBIN, some 000, some HY, something like this we need. That's the style we need. So, or say HDF, so 000 and some TN, something like this. That's some message we are giving. And here I will put that class as text danger, some message. And here we need to show that message MSG must be displayed. And on blur set message, I will keep as empty. That means I'm not giving any message. That's nothing but what happens now when anyone clicks inside this to type something, then it will show the tip and hide the tip. So we have to write the event now on one blur. On blur, we have to set up handle blur. On focus. On focus, handle what? Focus. Those are the events it should fire up. Now, when I run this, you can see currently there is no message. I click here, it will show the message. That means on focus, it will get the message. You click outside, then hide. Generally, later we will do validations and all. We will learn forms. It is a separate concept, how to deal forms. When we deal forms, we learn validations. In those validations, these are very commonly used. You click inside, it will warn you. You click outside, it will give you an error if you don't satisfy the required patterns. That is all done by using what? Focus. Another one is blur. Not only that, now whenever it blurs, suppose they typed something SBIN, so 000, some HY, something like this. And when it is blur, it should convert into uppercase. You see online, all forms are like that. So even you don't type in uppercase, automatically they convert to uppercase. That you can add any event. On blur you can do, while typing itself you can do. That means every character when they type, it should automatically convert into one uppercase. Then usually what you can do on blur we can do, or we can add one more event on key up. Yesterday we saw. And here we have a function handle key up, right? And here I will use handle key up. And on key up, what we do, get the value. And we need to set the value. Where to set the value? So we need to set the value into the text box. Into the text box. So that means now this text box needs a value. How you set up the value for the text box? That means I will just keep here. Now the two-way binding concept comes here. So we have a constant code, set code is equal to what? Use state, and the code is currently empty. And what will be the code? So we are using set code. Set code is what? Set code is whatever value they entered in text box. That means e dot target dot what? Value. That is code. Now this code must be displayed where? This code must be displayed in the text box. That means text box have a value property. In that we want to display the code. Whatever code they enter, it should display there. And this time, this value must be converted to uppercase. That means we add two uppercase. Two uppercase. You know, two uppercase is a JavaScript string function which converts into uppercase. Now, what is the point here is you click inside and you start typing something. It's not allowing to type something. Why it is not allowing to type? Because two-way binding requires, two-way binding means what? You are collecting data from an element and trying to store in a variable, which is not directly possible in React. right? So why it is not possible in React? Because React implicitly uses only one-way binding. So how to enable two-way binding now? To enable two-way binding, what we have to do? So we have to write manually the event. What is it? On change. On change. So on change, when you write on change, then you don't need this one now, because on change itself will verify whenever you are changing the value. So on change, for example, temporarily here I'm using, so I don't need on key up now. I'm using on change. On change, what we are doing here. So handle key up. That's the function we are using. So this is the event. That means when you define that, when I click inside and we type something, it should be converted into uppercase. I'm not using any caps lock here. So I'm not using any caps lock here. So I'm just typing and it is automatically capital letter. That means when you are typing anything, so actually what is the capitalization I have? So currently my capitalization here is lowercase, right? The same case I am typing here, then it automatically converts into uppercase, whatever you type. Now what is, yesterday you may saw that whenever I type a value on key up, it was allowing to type. But why today it is not allowing to type? Because yesterday we are not using two-way binding. We are not collecting the value and storing in any reference. We are just using that value. We are not storing in any reference. Storing in reference requires mandatory to implement which one? On change. If you are collecting the value from element and trying to store in some variable reference, or here it is a state reference, then it is mandatory to define only on change. Yesterday, we don't need that, because on key up, key down, what we are doing, just verifying. They enter a password, we are verifying. Is that password length is 4? Is password matching the pattern? We are not storing it in any place. If we are trying to store the value in any place, React will not allow. For that, mandatorily, you have to implement what? On change. On change. So I entered anything here, automatically it will convert into uppercase, then it is done. So usually you see several online forms, even you fill in lowercase, they will be converted to uppercase, right? So we need to implement that by using these functions. We have on change, we have on blur, and we have on focus, right? So this is a example for that. I will copy this example. In this example, we are using all the three, right? So example is a state event demo.jsx. This is the code. State event demo.jsx code is this. These are only one event based examples. Now we will use them in different interactions. We will use them in creating different complex examples. We will see that. So this is the first thing. What are element state events? Next important category is we have another important category. We are having button events. Button events. Already we used some button events. What are the button events we used here on DBL, right? What are the button events we use? So we have used the events on click. On click is a button event. So actions on single click. On double click. So this is actions on double click. So on context menu. So actions on right click. Context menu is nothing but right click. On select start. Actions when but when you hold down button and drag. That is actually select start. These are all button related events. On click. Actually in JavaScript, it is DBL click. Here we use complete word double click. In JavaScript, double click is written as DBL click, on DBL click, but in React, it is completely on double click. On click, on double click, on context menu, and select start. So these already you learned same points. So here, remember, I am giving all these event examples. Nobody in React will give you about events examples. In any website, React tutorials, anywhere you see, right? Website, YouTube channels, anywhere or any training, they never tell you about how to use click event, how to use blur event, because they are all JavaScript basics. I am just giving again a simple overview of those events to you, because if some people are not completely aware of events, then they have an idea. This is not React related learning. This is all JavaScript. All these events people learn in JavaScript just as it is they use here. So these are not React examples. These are all JavaScript examples we are changing to React. Right? This you should do by yourself actually. Just I am giving a hint to you to uh, understand all these events, how to use. Additionally, we are learning this. So already you know double click, context menu. You learned in JavaScript. If anybody asks how to disable right click in a browser. No, you don't learn. In a browser, how we disable right click. You see websites. Website says that you can't right click here. Banking sites and all these people. That's general JavaScript thing. In JavaScript, how you will disable right click, how you disable paste, how do you disable cut copy like actions. They should not allow inside the page. So same, these are all done by using context menu. Context menu means what? Right click, right? Suppose you see, what are these button events? Okay, I will change these button events. Okay, let's set up here one more example. This all I will clean up. Okay, so we have a image. So image source is some, we have some images. I think iPhone green, black, we have a iPhone green dot JPG we are having. Okay. So width, I defined set it 100 and height also set to 100. We just have a image here. And what we are doing, we put a paragraph. So we say double click to view large. So that is nothing but when they double click on that photo, it should open in a separate window in a large screen. Not inside the page, separate window. Separate window, now React cannot do directly because React cannot handle the window. React can handle only virtual. But React can handle those window objects, location objects through JavaScript. So what you can do here, so you can simply write here, so function handle DBL click. So this is when double click happened. So it should use window.open method. In JavaScript, window.open method can open any page, any file in a separate window. And what is this file to open? So iPhone green dot jpg. Okay, what should be the title? Title should be iPhone. What are its features? Features means width, height, how much? So width is some 300 and height is some 400, like this we define. Now, when to handle this? When user double clicks on image, that means image have event on what? Double click. On double click, we have the option handle DBL click. This is nothing but what we done here. When anybody double click on that, right? When anybody double click on this, that will open in a separate window. And it is opening currently. It is opening currently this entire page, right? We need to open this one. That means it is having some problem JPG. Okay. Now I will open here. Double click on this image. That image will open in a separate window. That's on double click. So we can configure double click. Just on double click, it can open in a separate window. So this is generally done by using double click. How to handle double click. Now, in many interviews, what is the question is how to disable right click. Context menu is for right click. So how to disable right click? So you can disable right click, but again, we need to take help of document DOM. Because virtual DOM, you saw now, virtual DOM is what? Our actual page is body. In the body, we have a div. This div have a ID as what? Root. Now, whatever the component we designed, that means whatever the component we designed, so that component like state, key demo, mouse demo, we are designing separate components. Those components are actually rendered here. We know the React hierarchy now. So React starts with index page. In index page, you have a div. Into that div, that virtual DOM is rendered. We use virtual DOM.render method, right? Create root and all we learned. That means now it is not taking control of your body section. It is taking control of this area. That means entire page is not working for you. In the page, some portion is working for you as virtual DOM. That's the reason disabling of events you cannot do directly through React. So because disabling events, if you have to do to the browser, because all events, I told you, JavaScript events related to browser. All JavaScript events related to browser, synthetic events related to React. These synthetic events map to browser events. So if you have to disable any event, you should write so for actual DOM also. That means how do we do? Suppose I am writing one more paragraph here. So here double click to view large and right click is disabled. On this page, we are writing like that. Right click is disabled on this page. Right click is disabled on this page, nothing but usually currently right click is working. I can right click, I can use it. It is currently working. I want to disable it. If you want to disable right click, then what we have to do is first you have to write a function handle context menu. Context menu means right click. These all function names, our own names. Now at higher hierarchy is this one. So that means here I will write the parent div, I will write on context menu. Handle context menu. Okay. Now when user right clicks, this context menu will fire up. What this context menu have to do? It has to go to document. In the document window. So in the window, there is an event called right click. That event it should disable. Then what you have to do? Document dot on context menu. On context menu is equal to, it is a function. This function will return false. In JavaScript, you already learned if any event the function is returning false, that event will be disabled. You want to disable paste, you want to disable click, you want to disable right click, you want to disable copy. So for that event function, you need to return false. Return false is not, return is a jump statement and return terminates the compiling process. That means now from hereafter, nothing will work. When you say return, nothing is going to work. It will block. Any event, if you want to disable, you have to make the event function to return false, right? Now what happens is I will do one more. Before returning false, we will put an alert. Right click not allowed. That is the message I am giving. That means now what happens? Suppose I am selecting something and I just wanted to copy, then I just right click anywhere, then it says right click not allowed. And right click is not working now. I cannot right click anywhere. Anywhere I am trying to right click, it is not working in this page. That's how generally we disable events in JavaScript. The same technique we follow here. But extra what you do is, in JavaScript, what you do directly write on context menu return false. But here through synthetic event, we have to map to the actual DOM event and disable it. That means two levels we need to follow, because synthetic event cannot directly disable browser events. So we have to, through synthetic event, you have to go to the browser event and disable those events. In JavaScript, directly we write on context menu. In JavaScript, do you know how we write directly? Just you can write in the body. You can write what? On context menu. On context menu, directly you can write return false. It will not work. Directly you can write. You don't need to write a function. In JavaScript, you directly say return false. That event will not work. You can disable any event directly like this in JavaScript. But here we can't do that, because here we are using virtual events. Through virtual events, we need to manage. So this is one concept. Another option is there. Another option is I should not allow to select also. How I am selecting is click and drag. Click and drag is selecting. I should not allow to select also. Then what you have to do, you need another function to write. What is that function? We have a function handle. Handle what? Handle selection. Suppose just I am giving handle selection and document dot on select start. On select start is a function, and this function should return what? False. It should return false. When you return false, and you need to write that anywhere inside this now, we have another event on select start. So on select start, we have to define on select start. Okay. And what we have to do? Handle selection. Handle selection is the event. So now you see here, when I try to click here, so it should not work. It's like, I think this select start event. In this, they change it to only select. So here it's not. So we have, means this event may not be directly available. Once we check, what is it? On select. Select start is enough actually. It is working. So we need to use an alternative then. That means those events are removed. We will see an alternative one. Okay. So this we keep alternative. Actually, this is enough. What is enough? On select start. On select start is what? it is going to disable the selection also, right? We will check relative one in our React, right? In React, they have removed that on select start. Then you keep hold this. So this is not available, right? I just mark it as not available. We will see an alternative one. We will learn another alternative one. Means other events are there. We will use them then. Why? Because directly this event is available. Generally, what we write here. So on what? Select start. On select start, directly we configure as what? Return. So return what? False. That is actually the DOM event directly. This DOM event is going to directly disable that you cannot select it. But this is not DOM now. This is all virtual DOM. Virtual DOM. We will check any alternative is available for that or not. I will check any alternative is available. We will use it. Directly, if you want to disable the selection, then what you can do, we can use this. Generally, it is available in actual DOM. Directly in actual DOM, it is available. For example, we say here, selection disabled. Disabled. How to disable the selection? We have to write a function what on select start. On select start is equal to return what? False. So selection disabled. And when I try to select here, I'm trying to select, it's not working now. It is unable to select. This is not working now. It is unable to select. So that means it is, I just dragging this selection, that means it is unable to select that selection. But here, this is not selection actually. What we are doing, selection dragging means what? Selection dragging means this plus I symbol should come. From the I symbol, I drag, it's not working. There is another method of selection. What is another method of selection? You know, you can double click. We haven't disabled double click now. So we have to write double click also what? Disable selection. That means return false. Then it will work. All you have to disable, right? So because I and drag selection is not working. But when you double click, that is working because through double click also user can select actually. That also we have to disable. How to disable that also? Just we have to use it. We will use any alternative available in React. Later I will check and tell you that, right? Why? Because actually this is there, select start is there. So in recent, they may change those event. I will check one more event, anything available. Otherwise, we will use another old technique of how to disable the selection, right? Disabling selection and that we can do by using what? Button events. So here one simple note is any event you want to disable, what you have to do to disable any event, you have to map to actual DOM event that returns false. Actual DOM event that returns false. So syntactically, how you do actual? So we have a function handle some context and document dot what? On context menu. The function. This function should return false. We need to disable all events relatively. because generally what happens, so we disabled the selection and we are not disabling double click, then they can select with double click, right? So we need to write all. Generally what happens, you disable the right click. Why you disabled right click? Because you don't want to copy or something, but they can take a screenshot. That means now we have to disable another event. We have to disable screenshots. So a combination of events, you can disable selections and others. I will later show you how to do that. We will use other event combination and we can disable that, right? So currently these events are related to buttons. So button have single click, button have double click, button have right click, and button have a drag, right? Example, I will just copy this one. This is the example here. What is that example? This is state demo. So this is just event state demo, something like that. .jsx. You can give any name. Okay, state event demo, na? State event demo. State event demo. Okay. Next, these are all one examples I am giving. Later we will design some projects. In that we will implement all these events, different events we will implement. Next we have clipboard events. These are also related to same. Clipboard events, what you have in JavaScript, clipboard events are nothing but we have like on cut. So that means actions on cut. So on copy, this is actions on copy and on paste. So on paste, this is actions on paste. This is also same concept. So I'm not giving any example. You can try same as your JavaScript. These events are same. That means what to do on cut, what to do on copy, what to do on paste. Again, in interviews, the question is how you disable paste. So how you disable paste? Just you have to write paste with a document function written as what? False. And why you disable paste? Because you see several websites. They will say that enter your password. And again, they will ask verify your password. Some people, what they try to do, what password they entered, they copy and try to paste it. It will not allow. It will say that you should type. It asks enter your account number, verify your account number. You entered account number and you copy it and you try to paste it. Then what it will do? It will say that it cannot paste. You have to manually type. How to disable that? For any text box, syntactically just very simple here. Suppose we have a text box, input type text, and on what paste. So handle paste. So handle paste is the event. So handle paste. Okay. How you control this? Just as I given here. So function have an handle paste. What do you write here? So we have to write document dot what? Document dot paste is equal to function. What this function have to do? Return false. All are similar. That's the reason this you can try by yourself. Cut, copy, paste. These comes under clipboard. Why they are called clipboard? Because why they are called clipboard? They are called clipboard because whenever you cut or copy anything, that is copied into a temporary memory called clipboard. So your computer's temporary memory where you cut and copy the content, that content will be present. That memory is called as what? Clipboard. Clipboard is the temporary memory. These are all clipboard related events. So cut, copy, paste. Now we have another category. So another category of events. So we are having the events like, what is another category? We are having keyboard, mouse, and all we learned. One more is actually we have a touch events. Before going to touch events, one more we will see. Form events are there. Form events. Form events, what are the form events? You know already form events. Form events, two events are there. On submit, another one is on reset. These are form events actually. So actions on form submit. So actions on form reset. And already I explained this. You remembered I explained this in prevent default concept. Prevent default is what? So whenever you write a form, by default form have a functionality because it is a generic event. So how to disable it? On submit, we have to prevent default. These are form related. Later, when you learn about forms, I will show examples on this. As of now, where to write these events? These events are written for which element? Form. Form have on submit. This is handle submit. Have on reset. So like handle reset. What actions to perform on submit and reset? You have to define here. And usually that requires what? That requires one button whose type must be what? Its type must be submit. Its type must be submit. And we have another button, type must be what? Reset. Reset. And for those buttons, they will respond. So these are form related events. Right. So the form events usually, where do you write the form events? Generally, we write the form events for a form. That means already I showed you this example. So where we learned that prevent default concept I showed you. So what is this? We have a form. We have a form. And in this form, you have some username and we have a text box and we have a button. And what is the button type? Button type is submit. So we have a submit button. Now, already I showed you that concept. Huh? What is that? So we will refresh and selection disabled. Where is it? This is a page. This is ordinary page. That is not our page. Okay. Now here I am using. So here I am writing some heading. Okay, form event. Event. Okay. Next, what is the point? That's the form event. And when you click inside and you type something, and when you click submit, usually by default it have the ability to submit. Forms already have the ability to submit. We need to disable that and we need to write our own functionality. We need to later submit to our backend database and everywhere. In that case, how do we write the event? As I told you, later we will have a separate session on this form concept, but event, what you write here, we will write a function. Function is what? Handle submit. What this handle submit? It can collect event argument. How to stop the default action? E dot what? Prevent default. Event prevent default. After that, you set up whatever functionality you want. You put an alert like form submitted to server, something like this I'm giving. Now, this should be written for form. Form uses an event. What is that event? On submit. Handle submit. The submit and reset events are used for forms and they are used with combination of submit button and reset button. So generally, when you see that here, you are entering some data and you click on submit. Usually what happens, it will perform your functionality and it will stop the default functionality. If it is not stopping default functionality, this value is submitted in the URL. As query string, it will submit the value in the URL, which already I showed you. If you don't use prevent default, what it will happen? It will submit your value. It will submit your value. And when you submit, the value is submitted here in the URL. And why it is not submitting, you know that every form element requires a name. We have to use a name, some username. Then you can see it will have that name and it can submit that alert and it will get that and show. We don't want this to happen. We want just to perform what actions we given. Then what you do, we set what? So we set prevent default. Prevent default. This already I explained. Stop propagation, prevent default, and these are related to which one? Form related events. Next important in your events you have so very important category is timer events are there. I hope you learned a lot of things about these timer events in JavaScript. Here one extra logic you will learn. So what are your JavaScript timer events? JavaScript timer events set interval. So clear interval. So we call them as timer events. Set what? Timeout. So we have clear timeout. These are the timer events. Set interval, clear interval, set timeout, and clear timeout. So you already learned what is difference between timeout and interval. JavaScript timeout and JavaScript interval. What are the differences? So timeout will execute only once. Interval will execute repeatedly at regular time intervals. I will show one example because every React interview you attend, so 100 to 100% you have to face a question on this. Every React interview, if for fresher to experience, everybody have to face question on these timers because majority of performance related issues in application we address using these only, right? Application related performance related issues we manage by using these timer events. That's the reason lot of questions are asked about these timer events. Do you know what is popular question asked for JavaScript people related to these timer events is what is debounce in JavaScript? So it is a very popular question asked, what is debounce in JavaScript and how you handle this? That same concept in React also we have to handle. Every web application have to handle this debounce mechanism. So it's a very popular question even for fresher these days. They ask what is debounce in JavaScript. What is the concept of debounce? So what is bounce and debounce mechanism? So one example we will see what is bounce and debounce mechanism. Generally, you already learned in JavaScript that electronic devices, for example, first I will show you a practical example, then you will understand the concept. So what we are doing here in this example, we have a paragraph class margin top 4 h1. Okay. Now we have some constant message and set message. Use state and it is empty. Now we have function as a message 1, MSG1. MSG1 will set message as hello. Okay, another function is MSG2. This will set message as hello, how are you? So another message, another function message 3 and set MSG. It is welcome, welcome to React. Something like this we define. Now these are 3 functions and the message you should display inside this paragraph. In the paragraph, we need to display that message. Now, what we have to do is when component mounts means what? Use effect. On use effect, what we need to do here is on component mount, we need to call message 1, we need to call message 2, and we need to call message 3. We need to call 3 messages. Or instead of that, you put a button so that you can easily understand here. More simple. So we have a button. So as a show messages, and we will write a function. And this function is handle show click. Okay. So on button click, on click, handle show click, we need to call 3 functions. Message 1 function is called, message 2 function is called, and message 3 function is called. We are calling 3 functions. Now see what happens is, so show messages button is there. When I click that, you can see only third message is there. So what about first and second? We are calling all 3 functions. What about first and second? They also executed. They presented, but it is so fast that our eye cannot catch that speed. That means computer is an electronic device which is at 10x speed than general electronic devices. 10x speed. That's the reason timers will be like 1000 milliseconds equal to 1 second. Usually 100 millisecond equal to 1 second. That means now processor will be 10x fast. That means it is 1000 milliseconds is 1 second. But clockwise 100 millisecond equal to 1 second. So technically it is so fast that you cannot catch it. Electronic devices have to face this problem, especially when you are using keyboard. Generally, you have 2 basic inputs, typewriter, keyboards. What is difference between typewriter and keyboard? Generally, we will not say that in computer we are typing. In computer, we don't type. In computer, we key in. We don't type. There is no typing here. Generally, typing means what? What is typewriter keyboard is, you press a key in typewriter, then what it will happen? It will execute once. After that, it will stop. But what is problem with keyboard key? You press and hold down, don't release, it will repeat. Am I right? That means keyboards don't type, keyboards key in. They continue key in until you release. That is the problem. And remember, suppose now you are electronic engineers, people are there, so they learn electronics and all. In that, they implement this debounce compulsory. It is an electronic term. Suppose you are designing a remote for a TV, and in that we need to control the volume. Volume plus, volume minus buttons will be there. When I use the plus button and I just made a little delay in releasing the plus button, it will go from 0 to 100. Again, I say minus button, it will come 100 to 0. You can't control. It is so fast that it will repeat from 1 to 100 in a fraction of milliseconds. Then what our programmers will do? They implement a mechanism called debounce. What is meant by debounce? Even user hold down the key, it will not immediately repeat. It will not immediately repeat. It will lock the task for some time and it will release after that time. Generally, Java.NET people control this by using multi-threading. Thread sleep, like concepts they use by using multi-threading. By using multi-threading concepts, you have to control when to make the thread sleep, when to make the thread awake. Thread multi-threading mechanism we implement there. So here we do that by using timer events. That means every function is immediately released, which we have to lock. We need to make the function inactive, sleep for some time. That means even user hold down, it will not repeat immediately. It will take some time. It will slowly release it. So what is happening here? The functions are bouncing, event bouncing here. What is bouncing? Bouncing is a mechanism where a process will not wait for another process. It will immediately perform so fast that you can't catch. Then how to control this problem? How to handle this problem? By implementing what? Debounce. How you implement the debounce mechanism? It is nothing but what we do is we will ask this message. That means actually what happens, the process I will show. So what is that here? So actually this is, we are having memory and we are having process. So usually we have the process. So computer process will be there and the computer memory will be there. Now we will have task 1 and task 2. Generally what happens is, first, these two tasks are loaded into memory. They are first loaded into memory. At a time, both are loaded into memory. After that, first task is released into process. And when first task is released into the process, within a fraction of second, the second task is also released into process. You will feel like it overwrites. You will feel like you will overwrite. Actually, in computers, there is no overwriting. Means technically speaking, computer is not a multitasking device, which people teach you from school days onwards. Computer is multitasking. Do you know, in reality, in software technology, there is no multitasking. There is no multitasking. All are pseudo. Multitasking, they make you feel like multitasking. It is not multitasking. The fraction of sharing time is so small that you feel like at a time all the work is done, but actually it is not doing. There is no real multitasking in any computer technologies. So even computer is not a multitasking device technically. So why? Because it will do the task in such a fractional time so that it make you feel like multitasking. Do you know, for example, when you buy computers, laptops, they will say you have a dual core processor. You heard about that? dual core processor. What does it mean? Two processors will be there? No, every computer have only one processor. What is the advantage of dual core processor is it will share two tasks in two processes so that two tasks are at a time performed. Then you will feel like it is fast, but it is not fast. Do you know generally how people say, for example, I will ask you, tell me which browser is fastest browser? Means I will tell you some general things which are technically not correct. Tell me which browser is faster. You have so many browsers, Chrome, Edge, Opera, right? Safari. Which browser is faster? Which browser is faster? Right? That question itself wrong. What you are talking about, does internet speed depends on browser? Huh? Then what is this question? That question itself nonsense. Right? Internet speed doesn't depend on browser. Then why you say this is fastest browser? Right? That means technically it is different. That means see, every car company says we are number one car in the world in India. Who rated number one? Everybody says we are number one, number one. Who is number one? We don't know. That means they are number one technically according to something else. Some basic criteria is changing. They are number one according to some survey. They are number one according to some other survey, like that. Technically, are they number one or not? Nobody knows. That means these are all pseudo. Pseudo means they make you feel like at a time working, but they are not at a time working. They are so fast that they make you feel like at a time working. Now, what you can do is to control this, you can make the second task wait for some time. That means you can lock this task in the memory, make it sleep for some time and release it. Then what will happen? User can easily see the task one, and task one will finish working. And after that, after some time, task two is released. Now user can clearly watch that task one is done and task two is done. So for that, we need to delay the process. That means, for example, you see another point in general. You see movies. In movies, some scenes are shot in slow motion. Am I right? Why some scenes are shot in slow motion? Why scenes are shot in slow motion? It is a graphics, effects. No. That means a scene is shot in slow motion because the director wants you to observe every concept of that scene because he worked on hard on that screen. That means if they don't do it in slow motion, it will just in a blink, it will go. And you will not observe his hard work. Whatever hard work he done in that particular scene, you can't observe that. That because just in a blink of eye, that scene is gone. That's the reason what they do, they put in a slow motion so that you can slowly see what is happening. That is the reason our heroes can catch a bullet also, right? Right? That is because they want you to observe keenly what is happening in that particular scene. That's the reason they put slow motion, because they might have worked so much hard on that particular scene. And that is very important to you understand, because if you miss it, then you can't understand next one. That is the concept here. That means delay every task so that it will allow another task to perform. How you do that? So we just put this option. What we do, we give these three tasks to set timeout. Set timeout. Which function? Message one. Okay, how much time you want to make it sleep? So you put a duration. Duration is suppose 3000 milliseconds. Okay. Another set timeout. Message 2. Message 2, this is the 6000 milliseconds. Again, set timeout. So this is message 3. This is 10,000 milliseconds. It is nothing but what does this means is all three messages are loaded into memory. At a time they are loaded. M1, M2, M3. Three messages are loaded into memory, but they have to release into process. Then what will happen after 3 seconds? First one will release. After 6 seconds, second one will release. After 10 seconds, third one will release. So you can clearly see what is happening. If you don't do that, it releases so fast that you can't observe. You will feel like last one only coming. You will feel like it is overwriting. Actually, it is not overwriting. It is printing all the messages, right? That means you see what happens now. Now I controlled it. Then what we have to do, let's run this and see. When I click on this button, now when I click on this button, now you will see that it is waiting. First message, 3 seconds. After that, second message. After that, third message. That means it is implementing debounce. So what is debouncing and how do we implement debouncing in our web applications? So in JavaScript, in React, we do the same way. But in React, some additional points are there. We will see that. What is the concept about debounce? Debounce is a mechanism where you can lock the task in the memory for a certain duration and make it inactive for some duration and release later. So that even user immediately wants, it will not immediately execute. It will delay. That means so why? Because this is required, because sometimes what user do, they will double click. So when they double click, so it is opening. Without waiting, again, if they double click, another will open. Am I right? You faced this so many times. Right now, user will keep on double clicking and you are opening so many duplicates. That's not good. Even he double clicks immediately, we will wait for some time. We will make it wait for some time and later we will release it so that the task is not immediately performed. It will delay. This mechanism is called debounce. For keyboards, this debounce is very important to implement. If you don't implement, then you can't control the actions, right? That is very important. So what is debounce in JavaScript? The concept is debounce is an electronic term which is used to control the actions in memory, which is used to control the actions in memory. It is a technique implemented to keep the task inactive for specific duration. Keep the task inactive in memory for specific duration. Specific duration. So this is alternatively people call it as what? Thread sleep like mechanism. So how to control debounce? How to implement debounce? How to implement debounce? The answer for this is by using set timeout. We can control the debounce. Actually, set timeout uses a function and it uses interval. Right. I will just keep this example, but it is not done. I just showed you a basic example. We will implement a complete with set timeout, clear timeout. How to clear the timeout? That means how we can remove them from the memory. We have a combination of set timeout, clear. Once you know, then later you can implement in a real project implementation where correctly we have to use them, how to use them, we will see that. This is very, very popular question in React also. In React also, very popularly asked question is debouncing. There is another one we will learn about that. So we just learned about this timeout. Now, one more concept is there, clear timeout intervals, how to handle them, and touch events that we will see in next session. Right, in the next session, we will finish that concept. And once we finish, now we will go into another major topic, forms. How to design the forms, how to handle the forms, take input from the forms, manage the data coming from the forms. We will have a big discussion on forms and validations in React. That we'll see in next session. And next session, tomorrow, only doubt session. Tomorrow, only doubt session. Tomorrow, we will not have a regular session. We will have only doubt session, offline and online. So if you have any doubts in tomorrow session, you can come. So, and only doubts clarification will happen in tomorrow session. Doubts clarification means not when course will finish, how many topics remaining. If you come with such nonsense questions, I will kick you. So only about the concepts that you have learned, right? Not about duration, course content and all these. Okay, right. Tomorrow we will continue, all right? Yeah.